apologize for my setup. The lighting is crazy. I don't have a permanent setup yet. So for those of you who may be new to my channel, or this is the first time that you've ever visited us, just let me say thank you for stopping by. Do hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell wherever it is as well. We've got a lot to cover actually in this episode. We're going to talk about the allure of my most recent road trip, the first UK road trip, which I'm excited to share with you guys. Some similarities that I found between some UK and US politics and strategies. And also we're going to talk about some announcements at the end of what's going on with the channel. But very first and foremost, the biggest story that's been happening in the last week or so is the unfortunate wildfires in Hawaii. More information will be, I'm sure, reported on over the next few days and weeks. Probably more about this horrific moment is unfolding. Last that I found my research as of this moment, the fire started last Tuesday, fueled by a very dry summer. Also, that summer was combined with some extremely strong winds from a passing hurricane. I'm not 100 on this, but I've read a few places that some of the emergency siren systems have failed. So a lot of the residents were kind of caught off guard that this was even coming. This is being declared as the deadliest US wildfire since 2018. As of now, there's 67 people that are confirmed dead. About 2,200 acres have been burned so far, and roughly 3,500 buildings have been destroyed within the fire's perimeter. Absolutely awful. The Maui is just getting destroyed. And President Joe Biden declares a major disaster on this. Is a terrible situation. Details are still coming out. Any natural disaster, it deserves empathy and sympathy, of course, and obviously we should do everything we can to help anyone in those situations. And there have been several disasters that have happened across the world recently within the last couple of years that the US hasn't really paid as much attention. But we really have to start just paying more attention to, climate change, to the effects it's having on the world and the effects it's having on people. Everything that comes out seems to be more and more devastating than last. Every event that happens seems to be more and more devastating than last. So I don't know. If you can help out and you would like to, that would be wonderful. There are a few links I'm going to leave in the description box below. Please donate so you can help all the people that are affected and everybody who's trying to participate in the efforts to recover. And if you can't donate money, I understand that. We're all in different positions, but if you could share the links, that would help a lot as well. UK politics, are they copying the US? Okay, I'm getting more involved in UK politics, trying to get more informed and try to understand how the system works here. And I've just noticed, and just watching the news and reading articles and things like that, that the Conservative Party here, known as the Tories, seem to be implementing some things that the Republican Party in the United States has either already done or is talking about now as well. And they're even using some of the same talking points, which is really weird to hear from my point of view. I don't know if it's an intentional thing. I want to be one of those arrogant Americans. It's like, they're copying us. And I certainly don't want to be arrogant in the thought that they're copying us because we're the best practice, because trust me, like I said, I'm not a scholar in this. So I'm just giving you my opinion. I do have to say that it does feel a little bit nerve-wracking. They're doing a big push for privatization here. So privatizing infrastructure things. They want to privatize maintenance of the roads. They're also rolling back immigration policy, like the US has in the past, talking about defunding social programs or limiting, any additional funding or investment in social programs here in the UK. Those things make me nervous. Coming from a country where everything is privatized, there are no social safety nets, really, maybe a handful the most, and those handful are extremely means tested. Privatization is for profit. It's not about helping people and making sure people have their material needs met. It's about making sure that whatever private company running that particular program or that particular institution makes money, or you're in a business setting like that, you usually have to grow your numbers. You usually can't stay stagnant and say, oh, I make this much profit and be like that forever. You usually have to show some kind of growth, particularly if you're a public company or you have shareholders or anything like that. These privatizations of social programs and infrastructure end up not working. Another perfect example is the NHS versus the US medical system, which I have talked about before. And so for single payer healthcare, like what the National Health Service is, the NHS is here in the UK, you know, it comes out of your taxes and it's funded by the government. The United States has a private medical system. You have private insurance that's tied to your job. So if you lose your job, you lose your medical insurance, and you have to pay 3 or 4 times as much for your medical insurance to get private insurance, or you have to wait until you have another job. In America, there's people that don't get their prescriptions because they can't afford them, or they're rationing their medicine because they can't afford their medicine and food. If they hurt their knee or something, they don't go to the doctor because they know it's going to cost money and they can't afford it, and they end up having, you know, a permanent problem for the rest of their life. So it's somewhere around $200 billion in medical debt as of 2019 for the United States, and there's about 100 million Americans that are burdened with some form of medical debt. There are people who lose their houses because they get sick, because it's private healthcare. Privatization doesn't work. It just doesn't. And it does worry me a little bit that I see some of the conservative talking points from the US that has pushed for privatization for about 50 years now. And I see some of those same talking points and those same initiatives and policy pledges happening here in the UK. That's really scary. I don't see something like the NHS being taken away. I hope, and the structure of the government is different here than it is in the US. That might be a saving grace as well. I don't want to sound preachy. I just want to provide some perspective from someone who's lived under that type of system for my entire life. Part of the reason why we left was because it was such an oppressive system, and just be very careful. There's a lot of problems. I get it. Immigration is a problem. Yes, and that's a valid problem. That's a valid issue to bring up. The lack of jobs, adequate pay for your services and for your work, the overstress on the systems. I know these are all extremely valid concerns. I live here now, I totally feel you. But privatizing them is not the way to go. Speaking from experience, from someone who lived it, it doesn't help anybody but people who own the companies and probably the politicians who are connected in some way. I know we can find a way. I know there's another way to fix these problems, and we just have to work together to find them. We have to be informed and we have to pay attention. These people in power only worry about themselves and staying in power. They don't care about you. They don't care about us in the same way that they care about maintaining their power and their own status, whatever it might be. So you guys still with me? Now that I've completely bummed everybody out between the politics and the wildfires in Hawaii, let's take a little break and talk about something a little more fun. So I just got back from our vacay. I always love traveling, so I hardly ever pass up an opportunity to take a trip. But because we moved abroad and my partner and I were starting brand new jobs, I didn't think we were gonna really get to do any traveling this year. But it turns out that there is a mandate here by the national government that if you're working, you get time off. So my husband started in April and I started in July. And I've already taken a vacation, and both of us have gotten paid for our vacation. Those people that are living in the United States are looking at me like, I'm still not 100% sure about how it works. I'm still trying to get my head around it a little bit, but this is what I've been able to find. Almost all people classed as workers are legally entitled to 5.5 weeks paid holiday a year. So most workers who work a 5-day week must receive at least 28 days paid per year, which works out to be about 5.5 weeks. I mean, you can take it right away. It's more incentive to come back to work, actually, because I'm like, okay, had my vacation. I got paid for it. I want to work for this company now because they actually take care of me. Yeah, I still have a few days left. Really, really cool. Very, very exciting. Like I said, I'm still trying to get my head around it, but for the most part, I just kind of took it and ran because I thought this is so much better than I normally get when I was in the US. But there were times when I had to work like a year in the US before I could take a day off, even when I was sick, to get paid for it. So most of the companies that I worked for, you know, if I had a vacation already planned, etc., they would let me take it, but I wouldn't get paid for it. It's huge for me, huge novelty. So we jumped on that. We were able to get an amazing family vacation out of it, which was really, really cool. Last Friday, we set out on one of our favorite ways to vacation as a family, a road trip. Since we were a little tight on funds because we just moved into our apartment and we're still settling in with some things, we thought a road trip would be the best way to go. Seeing Nottingham, Edinburgh, I know I'm saying all of this wrong. You can make fun of me later. A bunch of Scottish lochs, the Isle of Skye, Manchester, Stoke-on-Trent, Hay-on-Wye, and a bunch of heritage sites along the way as well. Really interesting for me because we did a lot of road tripping before we left the US, but we didn't get to see a third of what we really wanted to see because the US is humongous. And here we got to see almost everything we wanted to see. So I was pretty impressed with that. It was a ton of driving, and shout out to my partner because he did all the driving. There were a few times when we were on the highway and I was like, you know, I could probably drive this for a little bit. He's a huge trooper. He took it all on. To be honest, he probably would have been, it probably would not have been as relaxing for him as I think it would. Yeah, overall, absolutely incredible trip. Bunch of wildlife, some incredible sights, gorgeous views. I'm not gonna lie, some of the most awe-inspiring scenery I have ever seen. Some of the mountainous landscapes and the peaks and valley, you know, perspectives that we got, particularly driving through Scotland and the Highlands, was freaking incredible. Some of the historic sites and ruins that we were able to find and experience were just fantastic. I can't wait to share the footage with you guys. It was so much fun. We had a blast. I feel like it was exactly what we needed as a family. We got here, we've kind of been doing our own thing and running our own lives because so much has been going on. It was really nice to just do something just the three of us, no one else. We were just bonding and experiencing all of this stuff together, solidifying our relationships and just being on the family unit and really giving it some TLC. It needed it. So happy that we did it. Very exhausted though. It was a lot. We have already decided that the next vacation is going to be like a R&R vacation. We're going to go to a destination and we're going to stay there and just relax a bit because we've been doing road trips for the past like 4 or 5 vacations. So I think we earned it. Not to take anything away from this road trip because it was definitely worth it. And speaking of things to come and staying tuned, here's some announcements for the channel that I promised earlier. I wanted to share a schedule that I have set up. I just started this YouTube channel in April. I'm definitely learning as I go, and all of you have been extremely patient with me, and I appreciate that a ton. Because of our living situation and me still adapting and things, I wasn't really able to set on a schedule. As you can see, I'm still working on my setup as it is. I know my uploads have been kind of wonky and it's been hit or miss for you guys. I don't like that. That's not really who I am. I'm a little bit more of a structured person. I'm going to put this out into the universe, okay, the schedule out into the universe. And I'm willing to adjust it if it's not. The primary reason for the schedule is to just keep me accountable. And I hope that it continues to keep me accountable to hold up to the promises that I make you guys. So here we go. Every Sunday is going to be a new episode of this podcast. Expat Tea with me. Every Tuesday will be a lifestyle vlog. The one that's coming up this Tuesday is going to be all about my new job, about me driving for the first time, things like that. Those will be dropping every Tuesday. Every Friday will be the travel vlog. And of course, throughout the week, I will be uploading shorts. I'm gonna try to do it daily. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to hold to that, only because the editing and stuff like that with the bigger vlogs, I wanna make sure those are good and quality, and I hold to that schedule for you. They are fun. I do like doing the shorts, but I might do too many of them. I'd like to pull my focus from that, pull more focus onto the long form vlogs for you guys. I hope that gives you incentive to stick around and stay with me, and hopefully it'll give you incentive to come back and visit us again. Okay guys, that's it for this episode of Expat Tea with me. Thank you so much for stopping by and spending this time with me. I truly appreciate it, more than you'll ever know. Make sure that you like this video and share it if you think there's someone that you know might like it as well. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Click the notification bell, and you get to know when a video drops. Just in case you forget that schedule, which you probably will because you have your own life. Make sure you go and follow us on social media. We are on Twitter and we are on Instagram at the Hickson Diaries. Also, there are links to this in the description box below. And finally, if you could leave me a comment about the video. I want this channel to do better. I want all of you to enjoy it more. So any feedback that you can give me, that would help me to do that. I am 100% on board to hear. Thank you all again for coming by, and I will talk to you next week.